Welcome to ESP Plus 103, Quotes, Orders, and Invoices. My name is Venus, and I will be your facilitator today. Okay. So this webinar is the final component of our ESP Plus training series. If you're interested in learning more about creating projects and customizing the presentation, you can visit our ESP Plus knowledge base at kbespplus.asicentral.com. You can go to the questions box here and select the knowledge base, and we'll go over that at the end. So on the knowledge base, you'll have access to helpful step-by-step articles and how-to videos. You can also access the ESP Plus training calendar, where you can register for the previous webinars in the ESP Trust Plus training series. So there is an ESP Plus 101, which covers the searching and collections piece, which is the first piece. And then there's also ESP Plus 103, which goes into detail about the presentation itself and how to create that. Okay, so in this 1 hour advanced session, we will delve into the order process for ESP Plus from customer request to closing the project. Okay, so in the last session, which is 102, we did go over creating that presentation. Okay, so we did stop at, our stopping point was we created a presentation. So we want to continue on from the presentation. We want to go through the process of creating that quote and then taking that quote into an order. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the homepage of your ESP Plus, remember that's covered in ESP Plus 101, but I do want to show you how to access your presentation. So we did presentations yesterday, and remember the presentations simultaneously will create a project. Okay, so you can either access that presentation using the presentations button here, or you can go to the projects. It shows you the last 5 presentations that you created or project folders, and this is the one we created yesterday. So I'm going to click here, and I want to talk about the main menu here. So the main menu, if you click on presentations, because that's what we're covering today, this is the presentation that we created yesterday for our client. Okay, and so this is where we're going to then go into the quote process, how to create that quote. So for the presentation, let's click on edit here. So I do want to go over the presentation settings, because this has to do with what your customer is seeing when they get your presentation. Okay, so the information on the presentation settings option here to the left-hand side, it will show you what the client sees when they receive their presentation. So any of the blue tablets with the check mark is what's seen on the presentation to your client. Okay. So let's take a look at the presentation as we sent the presentation. Okay, so to preview the presentation, you do have the option here, share with customer, and I'm just going to preview the presentation down here. So this is what that presentation looks like as your client can view it, as your client views it. So they can't do anything here except you cannot do anything here except to take a look at it. So from the presentation that we sent yesterday, we see that our client, you're looking at the icons on top, is requesting information or add these 2 products to the shopping cart and sent us back the presentation. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. So we're going to go back to ESP. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the presentation as the customer views it. Right. So, in the training, to share the presentation, you can share a presentation here. You can share via email or link. I shared it via a link. The link is a dynamic link. It updates when the customer makes a change to the presentation or I make a change to the project folder within. So I like to share via link because it updates faster. Okay. So you can copy the link here. Okay. This copies it to your mouse. As the customer, in this, we're going to put our customer goggles on. I'm just going to paste that link that I copied right into the browser, and it takes me to the client portal. Okay, so in the client portal, this is how the customer is viewing that presentation. They have some icons here, and this is just to take us back to the products page if we open one of the products in the presentation. And this lets me know that I have 2 products in my cart. I also have the option to print this as a PDF from a customer standpoint. So I click to print this, and then it will give me the option to either print it or save it as a PDF. And these are the products I have in my presentation. So I do want to say to my distributor as I go into the cart. So as I go into the cart, I can see what I have in my cart here. And then I can go to the bottom, and I can change this information. I can say, you know what, let me just add some more. I need the other color. Okay, so I'm going to say I want to select this in red, so it is available in black, and I do want to have it in red as well. And I then update my cart. So now I have in my cart, I have 2 reds, but that's okay. So we can do red or black. So it just updates the quantity that I'm ordering. All right, in both products here. So I ordered dark red and bright red in this one. Okay, I can go in and change this if I needed to. I can click edit product. I can take out this red here. Okay, then select the right color. Say I want 250 of those, and then update the cart. Okay, so now I have all the information I need here. Okay, so I'm going to go to review details. Now this is acting as the end buyer. Okay, so when I go to details, it gives me the quote details. I haven't sent the quote yet because this is still not an active button. So it does need to have a point of contact. It does need to have an email. So these are the required things before that client can send that information back to you as a distributor. So I'm going to just put in So now, as I put that email in, you'll see that I now have a send quote request. This is active. Okay. So as I go down, I look at this information. This is information that pulls from the product, the client's CRM. So in the CRM, if you went to the first class, I believe that they do cover the CRM and how you can add products to the CRM. So when I went through and I created my CRM, I made sure all the customer service information was there so that it pulls into anything that I create for them. So I don't have to go back and try to figure out their address and type it in. If it's already linked to the CRM, it automatically will fill in your information. Okay, so at the bottom, I have an option to add additional files. If I did not upload that logo, I can choose to upload my logo here, and I can go through and find my logo. Okay, and then I'll pull that logo in. So let's see, do I have any that I can pull in? I'm just going to say we're going to use this one. Okay, all right. So it does allow you to add a document if you're doing customization of the mugs here. So you can add a Word document with all the names that you need to have personalized on the product here. I can then add a message that I want to send to the distributor. Okay. I can add that information here. So it opens it up. I can say, can you give me a call? Sorry about that. Okay. And then I can send my request. Okay, so I'm going to send the quote request to the distributor. Okay, so while this is sending, I see that at the top now it says your quote request has been sent. And now on the top here, I have an option that says pending quote versus shopping cart. Okay, so I do see what I'm requesting or sending quote requests on. So I'll see all this information, all the contact information, which is information that I pulled into my CRM and my file and my message. Okay. Now, as the distributor, I do get a notification here on my ESP. So you can go to the notification bell and you can see that the customer has sent a request to be quoted for the products in the presentation. Also in the customer engagement option, I do see that the last time it was viewed was yesterday. And then there's an activity option where I can see any activity that has been done as well. Okay, so this is the most important part, is to get that notification here. Okay, all right, so I do want to refresh here, because once you refresh here, you'll see that you're still on the presentation tab, but it says a quote request was received, right? So now I want to view that quote. So I see what the customer has sent me, and there's my message. Can you give me a call? Here's the artwork file. Here are the two products that she's asking me to quote her on. Okay. I do see the quote stages here, so it says a quote has been created. I have it. It's on the quote sent option. The next step is to have the quote approved by the client, and then the next step from there is to convert the quote to an order. Converting the quote to an order is very important because this is how you're going to generate your purchase order, and also how you generate the invoice to send to the client. Okay. All right. So as I go down on the quote, I'm going to click edit on each of the products here. So I click edit, because now I need to add setup charges and things like that. Okay, so that is not automatically added for me here. So I'm going to add it to the quote, and then I'm going to share this with the customer again. So as I go down, I do see the options that I can change here. So all the boxes that are open here, that information is editable. So I can change this. I can also change out information here. So this is all covered initially when we're doing the presentation. You can go in and make those types of changes. So I'm going to come down, and I see the product variants. So the product variants were turned on in the presentation settings so that my client was allowed to choose colors and also choose other options that are made available for them to see on the presentation. So I see that I have the code for the black and white, the quantities here, which is fine. Okay. If I go down to options and charges, this will allow me to add additional options, like if they wanted to have it packaged separately in their own boxes. Those are optional charges. Okay, these are the vendor charges. Okay, so the vendor charge here, there are charges that are already available that the supplier has put in, and this is what you're going to choose to add to. Well, so I want to add this charge, and this is a run charge, 3 to 5 business days. Okay, so I see that the charge does move here, and the information on the pricing is here. Okay, I need to add additional charges. So it did not make the shipping charges available or setup charges available, but I can add a custom charge here. So if I click add a custom charge, I see that it does pull that charge up here. So I did it twice, so I want to remove one of them. So when you're clicking down here, it doesn't look like it's doing anything until you go up to the top. So, if you're clicking here, just make sure you just kind of scroll a little back up so you can see the charge here. Okay, so it's a custom charge, but I want it to be a specific type of charge that they see on your quote. So I'm going to come down to setup charge, and so it changes the description name, and that's a one-time setup charge, right? What is the supplier going to charge me? Now, if you have that information, you can provide it here, or if you want to have a charge that that you're going to send to the client or put on here, you can. So I'm going to say I know that the supplier is going to charge around $55 for a setup charge. Okay, and I'm going to, just so I can make a little profit on it, I'm going to make the setup charge a little bit more. Right? I'm going to then come down. I can look at my shipping route. Okay, or I can import a decoration or create a new decoration. So creating a decoration means that I'm going to then choose what type of imprint method will be applied to the product itself, and also it will give me the option to upload the logo. Okay, So I can do that here. I can create a new one. So I see that the decorator is Longso. Um, I I can save a decoration for later if I know that this client is ordering from me a lot. I would choose to save the decoration to the CRM record. So I'm not sure if that's going to be an option that this end buyer is ordering from me a lot. So I probably will skip this option until I know. Then I can come back and then save the decoration. Decorator notes. So I can provide information to the supplier here that's going to do the imprint on my product. So I can say full color process, things like that, or something special that I need them, or I need to communicate to them at this point. What type of imprint method? So on this, they're going to get full color imprint. Location, you probably, if you know it's going to be back and front, I would probably, do on the back and then add the note and ask, can you, this is where I would ask, on both sides. Or see, or say, because it doesn't specify if it's front and back, it just says front. So I'm going to ask that question. Okay. Now this is only going to be shared on the purchase order. Okay. If you make it visible here, it's going to share it on all the documents. So you only want to share it to the decorator, so you're not going to make this visible. Making this visible makes it visible to all the documents. Okay. So make it visible on the invoice and the acknowledgement. Okay. All right. So now that I have that, I do have the option to upload my artwork here, the customer's artwork, because I want this to appear on the purchase order. So I can upload it here if I needed to. If I need to have a proof, I'm going to select this option. I'm going to say, yes, I need an email proof, and then provide my email address. Right? Once I finish making this or updating this information, I'm going to click Save Declaration. I'm going to stop to see if anyone has any questions for me so far on making a change to the product. All right. So as we go down, I see the shipping route that this product is going to set. I do see a question. Did you say shipping is in the custom field? So to answer Anne's question, she's asking about the shipping in the custom field. So if you're talking about adding a shipping charge, you can. There's two ways to add the shipping charge. So you can add the shipping charge as part of this information, okay? Or you can add the shipping charge. It is custom, yes. So you can add the shipping charge. So I'm going to click here. It's going to move it up here. Did it add my charge? Yeah. So it already has the charges up here. So I ended up adding another charge here, okay? So you can say this can be a shipping charge. So you can pull that shipping charge down here, okay? Another way to add the shipping charge is to add the shipping charge as a service in the front. So it's an option to add it as a service. We're not going to add any other, we're just going to remove this charge here. Okay, so there's a difference between these charges. So this is going to be a decoration charge, and then there's also a vendor charge here. So you'll see that information. So if you're using a decorator, the decoration option here, it doesn't push it up to the front. Oh, okay. I'll show you how to add the shipping charge as a service in a moment. Okay. All right. So we've got the charges here. So this is the decoration charge. So let me just be clear when I'm actually explaining this. So at the top, your options and charges. These are optional charges that can be added, like for special services, like they're doing a special type of imprint specifically for this product. Maybe they're individually wrapping these products or packaging these products. So that's what the options and charges would be. Okay, and this is where that information will be provided. And this is the custom charge where you're going to add the custom charge for those services. Now, decorator charges, as we're down here, okay, you'll see suggested decoration charges from the supplier, okay? And this is information that you can automatically say, I want to add this charge, and this is going to be a run charge for silkscreen or your imprint method. There are more suggested charges from the supplier or decorator at this point that you can apply to this product. And this has to do with the imprint method. Okay? All right, so we're going to show less here. The shipping route is from the supplier going to my customer. There is an option to blind ship it so that my customer does not see the information from the supplier. Okay, so that option is available. See that blind ship. So that means that the supplier cannot provide any information as to where it came from because you want that customer to come back to you to buy more products. Okay. All right. So as we're going down, there's sales tax that can be added, and the sales tax and the sales tax is based generally, if you have it set up in the CRM, based on the state that you are situated in, and also based on your customer's address. So a charge or tax is automatically added to a quote or an order if that customer's state is the same state that you're in. So I'm in Philadelphia. My customer is from Philadelphia, so it should automatically add sales tax onto the order or quote. Now, if your customer is out of state, it's not going to add the sales tax, but you can manually add the sales tax if you needed to. Because if you're charging, you can charge, well, you know what? I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say consult your accountant. If you can add the sales tax and charge out of state sales tax, okay? That would be up to you to decide. So as I get to the bottom, I see the number of products that I'm ordering. It says +1. +1 just means the one is the charge that I've added. Okay, so if you added 2 setup charges or decoration charges, it will list that as additional. So outside of the number of products or the quantity of products that's on the product on the order quote, +1 means that shipping charge is there as well, whatever charge it is. And so this is just a summary of what you've done. Now I can move on to the next product if I needed to, or I can go back up to the top, and I'm going to make sure I click save here. Now sometimes the save button won't be accurate, or it won't be accurate or a live button because something in the back end didn't activate it. So sometimes it's just good to go in and make one change. Maybe you can like remove something here, add it back, and then you'll have this active save button. So we're going to go back to our products and services here, and we'll see those charges, those additional charges that we added. Okay. Now to add the shipping charge as a service, there's an add button here, right? So I can add a service. So I can say this is going to be a shipping charge. Okay, select what type of charge it is, shipping. And then you can do shipping again here. It's a one-time charge, and I'm going to say I'm charging $125 for shipping. Okay, and then I can click add service. So once I click add service, if you go down into the product itself, or into, now it adds the service separately, so you'll see the charge is separate here. It's not adding it onto the product. If you were adding a shipping charge on the inside when you make an edit, it will appear on the product itself. But adding it as a service pushes it down to the bottom of the quote or the invoice. Did that answer your question, Ann? No, the vendor doesn't indicate what the shipping charge is. So Ann did ask, does the vendor indicate the shipping charge? If not, how do we guess? So you will have to contact the supplier for the shipping charge. All right, so we made changes to this, and now we want to send this quote back to our client for them to approve of. So we will go through the same steps and edit this product, adding setup charges or additional charges that need to be added to this product. When we're done that, we now want to go to the option to send it back to our customer. So we're going to send this quote to our customer. Her information is pulled in already because, again, this is set up in the CRM correctly. I want to share via link, which I think is the easiest one because I can then call my customer and send my customer an email and say, you know what, can you take a look at this link or go back to the first link that I sent you because I made a change. And again, that link is dynamic. As soon as you click copy link, it automatically updates that information in the customer portal. So what I do, I go back to the customer portal here. I'm going to refresh it because remember that link automatically updates. Okay. So this is what the customer sees. So we're going back to the customer. So I do see that there is a question. Can you please explain other reasons not to use to share via email? You can. There's not a reason not to use to share via. I just think it's quicker than sending an email. But you can. I mean, it's up to you how you want to share your information. When I'm doing the training, just because it's easier when I do the training to show you how that updates. If you send an email, it does have a link in it as well. It does, Ann. If you send an email, there is a link that they click on, and it's automatically updated as well. So for training purposes, because I can't go back and forth to the email, I always do it this way. Right? All right, so this is how the customer views it. See, at the top it changed. It said pending quote, so now it's a quote, right? The custom quote. So I see the quantities, I see the quote total, the number of products that they're ordering. As I go down, I do see that there is a setup charge and a run charge on this one. I didn't make any changes to this one, but I will. I'll request a change for this one. Then I see my shipping charge. All right. And then the quote total. So as a customer, I'm going to say, you know what? I need to request a change on this. So I can say, can you add an additional 100 for the dark red? And then I can say rename. Just saying I did that. Okay, so I can click save here and I see the message here. So before I actually request or approve the quote, if I go to the bottom now that I added some information, I can say send change request or send request to changes. So I'm going to click this option. So now I'm the end buyer. I'm sending sending this back to my distributor. Okay. So I'll go back here as a distributor. I get my notification here. All right. And I'm just going to refresh here for a second. Okay. And then I'm going to go back to my project. So I go back to the red hat. All right. And I go to quotes because that's what we're working on now. I open up that quote. And once I open up the quote, I see that there has been a change request from my customer. Okay. So you'll see a big red banner here. You won't miss it. I'll see there's an option to view the change request. I'm going to click on this option. And then it takes me into the change request. So my customer is asking me, can I add an additional 100 for the dark red mugs? And I'm going to say, sure, I can do that. All right, so I have an edit product button here. And it takes me right into the product. And then I can update the dark red to 700 pieces. I go to the top. I save that change. I go back to the products and pricing here. Okay. So I see that it updated to 700 pieces for me. Okay. Any questions? Okay, so there's a question from Ann. It says, we received pushback from a first-time customer saying they don't want to fill out shipping info, etc. When they first request a quote. How do you handle that objection? Well, if they're requesting that, it's a quote. Just remember, it's a quote. It's not for the final. I will let them know that, okay, well, we can send you a quote just for products, but just know in the end that there's going to be shipping added. And that information will be added on the invoice. So I wouldn't add it on the quote if you're receiving pushback, but I would let them know that, in the end, it's going to be added to the invoice. You can add it to the order. So that order, because remember the order, when we convert it to an order, you can then add it to the order. So I wouldn't send it on the quote first if they're giving me that much pushback. I would just let them know that the quote is for product only. It does not include shipping. I don't know how I would handle that. So again, it's saying that they just don't want to go through the online form. But yeah. Yeah, so yeah, you have to figure out how you're going to handle part of that. So my first part is that I would put it on the code. I would just let them know that it's going to be added to the invoice again. Save the trouble there. Okay, so we are on. So we made our changes. So I'm going to go back to the view change request because there is an option that says changes completed. So I'm going to click that option. All right, and it saves automatically. I can go back to my quote here. Right, so now I want to share this with the customer again, right, with the updated information. So just before we send to the customer, there is an option to download or convert it to the order, create a new quote. We can do all these things, but we're going to just specifically sit on this. There's an option to preview the quote before you send it. So if I click that open, it opens up a portal where I can see that information that I updated, make sure that it is correct. So I go down to the dark red mug. I see that it's updated to 700. I can't send it from here, so I'm going to come back here. So I can send to customer, share via link, copy the link, go back to my portal, update. Okay. Again, this is going back to the customer. So now we're the customer. They come back, they see, okay, the dark red mug, I have 700 pieces of that. Okay. Come down. Let me know if I'm scrolling too fast. I'm coming to the bottom. Now I'm going to approve the quote. I'm happy with this. So I'm going to send the quote back to the client. I come back up to the top, and it tells me that I have approved the quote. I then go back to the customer, to the ESP as a distributor. Okay, I'm going to go back to my projects. Okay, I'm working with this main menu now. We've already sent the quote. We're out of the presentation, so it shows my quote here. Click on the quote number will open up your quote, and it tells me there's a green bar that it has been approved. So I see my stages over here to the right change. So I've created the quote, I sent the quote request, I've approved the quote. Okay, now I need to convert this quote to an order. Now I want to bring your attention to the menu on the left-hand side. So right now, because we're in a quote, there are limitations in them. These are the only things that I can do, quote unquote. I can see the products, I can edit the products and the pricing, I can see the declaration, which is the full color imprint on the front of the mug, right? I can see the shipping route, and I can see any notes that I've added that are associated with this quote. That's all I can do. In order for you to be able to see the purchase order or send the invoice, you have to convert the quote to an order. So how do we do that? Right? So we always want to go to the action button here, these three dots. So these three dots allow you to do a lot of things here. So I can download the proposal. And this is just letting me download. I can convert it to an order here. I can create a new quote. I also have the option to make a duplicate of the quote and creating a flag. And the flag is just saying great flag. So yeah, so the flag is just saying it's okay or follow up problem. So you can put a flag on that. Right. So at this point, we're ready to convert this to an order. Now watch the menu change on the left hand side once you convert it to an order. I'm going to convert this to an order. It automatically moves to the orders on the menu. And now I have several options here. I still have the decoration and shipping options on the left menu, but I now have an option for purchase orders. I now have an option for bills, which will let you send this to your QuickBooks or your SmartBooks if that's what you're using. Payments and invoices are also here. Okay, and also related orders. Okay, anything related to this order or notes associated with this order. Okay. All right. Also, in the order, it does have stages as well. All right, so we are in the first stage. So as we go through making these changes, it does update our stages. Okay, there's also an add button here where we can add products to this order, and we can add a service. Okay, so we can still add our services here. We can add more services if we need to. So this is all moving over from the phone. Okay, now if you did not put the shipping on the quote, you can add this. You can add it here, and that moves this over to the invoice. Okay, all right. All right, so let's talk about what we're going to do here. Okay, so we've already gone over. Now we're ready to actually do our purchase order. So when we click on purchase orders, we have two purchase orders, okay, because they're from two different suppliers, so you get two different purchase orders. The first one is here. So this is, I believe, this is probably the mug, and this was the tumbler. Okay, so I'm going to say I'm ready. It says purchase order not sent. So when you first create it, it's not sent, not automatically. You're going to have to manually go in, click on the action button here, and here are some options for sending that purchase order. You can preview the purchase order from here. You can send the purchase order from here. You can download the purchase order. You can send a packing list along with the purchase order. You also have the option to download a packing list if you want to have a copy of the packing list yourself. And there's an option to preview the packing list. So the packing list is just to make sure that the supplier put the right amount. They have to confirm on the packing list. This is how many products are in this box. That's what the packing list is. There's also an option to rate your supplier. So if you had a good interaction with the supplier after this is closed and completed, and the supplier says, "Can you rate me?" So you can just open up the order and go to rate a supplier, or you can search that supplier out on your ESP Plus. There's an option to rate the supplier on the supplier information page. Right? So I'm going to preview the purchase order. All right, so this is my purchase order. So it does contain an option to download the purchase order or print the purchase order if you want to have a hard copy for yourself. The purchase order number is here along with the total, and this is the purchase order is going to be a net cost or net, right? And then when you create the invoice, it will be at cost. All right, so the salesperson is here. This is the supplier that we're ordering from, and this is the end buyer that they're shipping to. All right, here's our product. Our 600 for the bright red and the 700 for the dark red. Here. All right, so we can't send it from here. We always have to go back here and click on these three dots. There's that option to send the purchase order. So it opens it up. It automatically will pull in the supplier's orders email. Okay, where it's supposed to go. We, as the distributor, we do have the option to customize the subject line as well as the email message. Okay, to a client. It will attach the purchase order as a PDF when the supplier receives it. Just open it up, and then they can start your order, the order process from there. There is the send email, so I'm not going to use this option because it is live. Unless you want to test it, you can test it. You can take this out and put your own email in here just to see what it looks like when it arrives to you. So we're going to cancel this. All right, so here, hold on one second. Let me send it because then it updates. If I don't send it, it's not going to update my order stages. So I'm just going to take out this email. Say I'm going to send it to my own. Okay, and I'm going to send it. I'm just sending it to myself so that it does update the stages. All right. So did it update? No, it says purchase order not sent. Not sure why that's happening, but it should say, it's the order, not the purchase order. All right. So when it does send, it should say purchase order PO set. I'm not sure why it did not update for me. Yeah, you know what? Let me just try this one. I'm going to refresh, so I'm going to make sure that you're able to see that. All right, so we're going to go back to that project folder. So Jeannie's question is, when a client sees a presentation, they can only add to cart. Confusing. Needs to say quote first. Now you can send the quote first. You don't have to necessarily go through the presentation part of it, Jeannie. There is an option for you to create a quote. So if you wanted to create a quote initially and not send a presentation, if you go to the quotes option here, there's an option to create a quote. You can pull products into the quote from a collection, or you can search for a product to add, or search for a product to add to the quote. So it's how you want to do it. You don't have to send a presentation first. You can always start with the quote. Okay. All right, so let's go back to our quote. Or orders, I'm sorry. Let's go back to the orders. We're going to open up the order. So I had to refresh it in order for the stages to update. So you see that it updated from order created now with down to fulfillment, which means it's been sent to the supplier. So now we're ready to send the invoice. So remember, we have this menu over here on the left-hand side, which contains the options for payments and invoices. Okay, so Jeannie is saying the client needs to know they aren't client needs to buying yet when going to the card. So the only thing I can say, Jeannie, it's as designed. It adds to the cart automatically. Either way. Okay, so they need to know that they're not buying when they go to the cart. Oh, okay. I understand what you're saying, but unfortunately, that's the way it works. You can add a note onto the quote or the presentation just to let them know, because there's an option to add a note to them to let them know that they aren't buying. But the quote, but adding to the cart is part of how you're going to see how many they want to order or how many they want to be quoted on. You can send that request, Jeannie, to support@asicentral.com. It will be added as a feature request, but it's nothing that they can change just for one request. So it has to be some weight put onto that request. So if you can send it over, we'll add it as a feature request to add a pop-up just to let them know that, just some type of information to the end buyer to let them know that adding to the cart does not mean they're buying. But see, when they're adding to the cart, it's not prompting them to put in any credit card information. It's just adding to the cart. And they're not getting to the end of the cart. You're just saying, oh, okay. All right, so we are on the order still, and we want to go to payments and invoices. All right, so we sent the purchase order over, so now we're ready to send over the invoice. So there are two options here when you're doing the payments and invoices. So there's an option to indicate payment, and I do want to clarify that we do not take credit card information or verify information as far as credit card payments are concerned through our product. Indicate payment actually essentially just means we want to indicate that they've given us maybe a deposit and that amount is subtracted from at the end of the invoice. So it shows it as a deposit or whatever you're going to name it or say about that intake of money. But there's not going to be a link there in that invoice that requires them to pay for anything. So it's a manual process at this point. Now you have the option to add indicate payment here on the order. When you do it from here and you're on the order, it adds it to the order. Okay. Now, if you wanted it to be added to the invoice, create the invoice first because unfortunately it doesn't say. With this on Jeannie, I don't know if you've been this far through it. When you're indicating payment, if you indicate the payment on the order, it doesn't push down to the invoice. So that's why I'm stressing if you want to push that, payment option, they gave me a deposit on the order, and I want that to be subtracted from the invoice. Create that invoice first. Ignore this when you're on the order. Right? So I'm going to create the invoice first. I'm going to create an invoice here. So this is my invoice. Okay. So on the invoice here, this is when you're showing the invoice to them again. When you create that invoice, you have the option for your stages. Yes, so you can do that. Jeannie's asking, can she merge with QuickBooks? Sure, you can do that. You would have to go through the linking process. So that is up on your settings or your credentials, and I'll show you that at the end if you want to do that. Okay. So this is the invoice. We didn't send it yet, but again, that action button is there. There's an add service if you want to add maybe you want to add the service here for shipping right on the invoice versus doing it on the quote first. I think Ann was asking about that. So you can add it here if you did not already add it. So if you didn't add this in the beginning, you still have the option to add it now on the invoice. All right, so now you have the option to create a new invoice, create a flag for the invoice, or download the invoice. There's an option to preview the invoice as well. And there's your option to add a payment or indicate a payment. So when you're on the invoice, here's your option for payments, and you can invoice or you can indicate the payment directly on the invoice versus doing it on an order, because when you do it on an order, it doesn't come down to the invoice. So create the invoice first, go to payments, indicate payment. It's going to be in US or Canadian dollar. Now it's not a full payment that they gave you. They gave you a deposit. So I would just uncheck this, and you can say this is what they gave me. They gave me $500 towards the order. Or so big, I probably asked for 5,000. If you want to put, a transaction number on it, you can. a payment method. They gave you a check or Discover, however they gave it to you. And I would just say deposit. And then I would save this. Okay. So now you have an indicate payment. Now, you can still continue to add indicate payments if you needed to. If they're giving you like small payments, you can continue to add them until they get to a certain amount that you requested, and then you can then send them the invoice. So once you're on the payment option here, once you create that first indicate payment, you do have the option to add additional indicate payments. Okay. All right. Any questions so far on that? So how do we send this invoice now? Okay, there's a share option here. We can send to the customer from here. If you have your QuickBooks connected, it will allow you to send to your QuickBooks Genie. You can indicate that I want to send it. You can share via link here as well. You have that option. You can preview the invoice here. I'm going to preview. So this is what it looks like when the client receives it. So you'll see the invoice number and the order number. Okay, so the invoice number will have a different number than the invoice, but it does show you where it's linked from. The amount due. So this is the amount due with the $5,000 removed. Okay, so if you get to the bottom here, it does say the amount paid. Okay, and it's subtracted from the subtotal. And this is the amount paid, and this is the amount due, which coincides with that information on the top of the invoice. You have the option to download the invoice from here or print the invoice. Okay, so you can still do that same thing. Share via link. I'm going to put a due date on the invoice. Okay, and then copy the link. I have too many open here, so I'm going to close these out. And I'm just going to go back to that browser and paste that link that I copied. Now this is the invoice. So notice that you have different options here. Now you have the products, the quote, and you have invoices. So this is what the client sees, so they know that they've been quoted, they sent their quote, and now they've been sent an invoice. All right, so in order for you to get payment, you will have to contact that customer directly, or if you're sending to QuickBooks, I believe QuickBooks has an option to send a link for them to pay you directly via QuickBooks. But there's not a link that exists here right now for you to send to them to request payment and for payment to be completed. Any questions so far? All right, so let's go to bills for a second. Now, if you have it linked Genie, you're able to send your bills from here too. So if it's linked correctly, it does give you the option to send your bills to QuickBooks. Okay, any questions for me? And also, if you do subscribe to SmartBooks, which is done through ASI computers, you can integrate SmartBooks here. You have the opportunity to send to SmartBooks as well. Right, so this does conclude our session. If you would like further information on managing order information in ESP Plus, please visit the ESP Plus knowledge base at kdespplus.asicentury.central.com. Now, if you need to call us, we are available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Our phone number is 1-800-546-1350. Choose option number 2. That will bring you directly to our product support queue, or you can send an email to support@asicentral.com. Thank you for your time and your attention, and everybody have a great day.